the 25th of March. I'm going to make an explanation here about why we're Zooming. We have a fair amount of business tonight, and last Thursday, people that work for Casella dropped off a draft host community agreement and some other documentation. And this was the fastest way to get it out into the public. So I haven't looked at it. Kelly hasn't. Nobody's looked at it. We're not going to have an argument or an agreement or a discussion about it because we don't know what we're dealing with yet. But I wanted to get it out into the public. It is digitized and it will be on the website as soon as we call a meeting and the selectmen vote to do that. But that's the reason that we're Zooming. I figured there'd be too many people here and we just have to cancel the meeting and reschedule. So that was my thinking. Okay, I would like to call for a motion to acknowledge receipt of the Casella proposed documents, draft host community agreement, draft agreement for the provision of leachate treatment services, termination and reconfiguration of Patrill Hollow Road.
I'm recusing myself.
Robert, are you there?
Yeah, I'm trying to get my camera on before I do this. Hold on. Yeah, well, that would be good enough. I so move.
Thank you. I second it. All in favor? Aye.
Robert? Aye.
Okay, so everything that we have now will be in the public domain. You'll have to go to the town website to see it, and we'll deal with it at some point in the future. Thank you. Okay, we also have the QRSD Budget Discussion with Superintendent Mucha, joint meeting with the Finance Committee, several of whom are in the room with me. I would turn it over to you, ma'am.
Great, thank you. So I'm Colleen Mucha, I'm the interim superintendent of the Quabbin Regional School District, and Cheryl Duval, who is our business administrator, is here with me. So I can't see all of you, but thank you for having us. We basically have, we've had 4 different iterations of our budget so far this year, and we just wanted to reach out to each of the towns to kind of tell you where we're at with our process and just see if you have any questions for us. So we have shared multiple PowerPoints. They can all be found on our website under our business administration tab. We are actually working to create just a page with all those budget documents for you. And we don't know what folks have, maybe, that's my dog in the background, I'm so sorry. What maybe folks have seen prior to tonight or not. So what we did is we just compiled a bit of an outline of some slides from various presentations that kind of helps tell the story to where we're at with our budget currently, since it's been voted on at our public budget meeting. So again, thank you just for having us. And if you have questions as we're going along, please don't hesitate to ask. We want this to be as much of a back and forth as we can have. And Cheryl's going to kind of take it over. But I just want to start with, we do have a brief presentation. Nicole, if there's a way, could you make Cheryl host and then she could share that presentation on like a slide deck? Okay, great. So as Cheryl's queuing that up, you know, across the state, we know this is not a good budget year for any of us. So we want to sort of acknowledge and recognize that. Also, our ESSER funding has ended. This was a 3-year funding package that we had post-COVID that was to help us address learning loss, to help us better support our students with their social emotional learning, and also health and safety. So that is going away. That's one of the factors. In our reality, and I'm sure you're seeing this in your communities in different ways, is that it's just taking us longer than I think anyone had anticipated. And I don't just mean Quabbin, I just mean education in general, for us to regain the ground on education and academics. Our recovering learning loss is just a little bit slower than we had expected. And our students' social, emotional, and overall well-being continues to be a challenge. On top of that, one of the unanticipated outcomes that we've seen since COVID is this idea of chronic absenteeism. So we're seeing our students at high rates not attending school for more than 10% of the school year. So we go to school for 180 days. Our kids are missing 18 days or more of their school year. Coupled with this idea of learning loss and social emotional learning has caused us to see a greater need for specialized services in special education and counseling. And so therefore we have had to, our caseloads have been increased for those particular categories of staffing. And we have been struggling, as I'm sure you guys have on the town end as well, to fill our positions in a timely manner. And this year we have a lot of retirements that are upcoming that we're going to need to fill. So those are some of our current challenges. And then I'm sure Cheryl's going to start talking to some of the budget components. But any sort of questions about just that intro of where we're at and what we're seeing? Okay, thanks.
See anybody when I have my screen open, so if you have a question, just please interrupt me. We're going to start talking about declining state aid that supports our budget. Currently, the governor's budget that came out, we're seeing $93,000 less in state aid for next year than we had this year. Just some information for you, 68.4% of the districts are only receiving minimum aid, and that is $30 per student. Additionally, 64% of regional school districts are now in hold harmless debt for FY25. The superintendent made mention of the end of our ESSER 3 grant, which were a series of pandemic relief grants that we had over the last 4 years. Our decision to reduce or eliminate some programs or incorporate approximately $880,000 in cost of the operating budget is something that we're challenged with. So while we're still addressing academic, social, and emotional needs of students, there are some programs that we're letting go of, or at least one program we're letting go of for next year. In building FY25, we are relying on some more reserves than we ever have in the past. We will be increasing our use of school choice revenue to continue some of that programming that was funded by ESSER 3. We're also seeing, just as you are, historic inflation costs on supplies and materials and contract services, specifically software licensing and special education services. Additionally, we had a transportation contract that's ending at the end of June, and our contract came in at 18.29%. We only had 2 bidders. We just got our electric contract bid for November of 2024. That's a 23% increase. I think we've all seen increases in our own home electric costs. Additionally, we will be dealing with some school building infrastructure needs, specifically air circulation improvement at our middle school and some floor replacement projects. Colleen, do you want to take the priorities?
Yep. So these are our 4 focus areas on our strategic plan, aligned with our mission and vision. So you heard me talk at the start that we're really trying to put some things into place to address chronic absenteeism, to improve attendance long term, because we know that will result in greater academic achievement for our students. We have provided credit recovery and summer programming. We actually have a Saturday session ongoing right now for our middle high school students. We're working hard to support the diverse learning needs of our students. One thing we didn't talk about was we've even seen an increase in our English language learners, or multilingual learners. Now there are mandates. So in these diverse learning needs, there are mandates from the state that say we have to provide screening for dyslexia. We need to address those individual needs. We have a new IEP process that is being implemented and meeting our speech services based on what students need. So we're continuing those supports. We are also, we saw a great increase for behavioral support for our students, and we continue to see that need. And this year we've had a greater focus on school safety and security. So we're really working hard to make sure our school buildings are safe, secure, clean, and inviting. We've been piloting a new sign in and sign out process where if you come into the school, you sign in, it automatically prints a badge. And you do it all on an iPad. And when you leave, if you forget to sign out, it messages you so that we can keep track of who's in our buildings.
Colleen,
Yep.
I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you, but can everybody please mute themselves because we're getting feedback as the superintendent is speaking? Thank you. Sorry, Colleen. Thank you.
Thanks, Kelly. No, I appreciate it because I'm just rolling them through here.
Yeah.
We work really hard to have this welcoming school culture and environment, but I just want to sort of acknowledge, and I'm sure you've seen it in the news as well, that we have to have a focus on school safety. So we're piloting some things. We had an audit done in the fall that made some recommendations for our district, and that's why we're piloting these different things. We are going to be seeking grant funding to see if we can implement some of those things in place. And we do meet monthly with your fire and police chiefs where we're all working on this consistently together.
So since we had our public hearing back on March 14th, some of the unknown costs at that point have now come in. Not many to our advantage, however. Our retired teachers' health insurance is being reduced by $18,000 in our next round of budget input. Regular transportation, as I mentioned, went up by over 18%. We just got our FY24 increase of general business insurances, which went up by 4.3%. I don't think I need to make an adjustment to that in the budget for next year. And as I mentioned, our electricity rates increased by 23%. Some big items that are still unknown at this time is our workers' compensation insurance. We filled out all the reports back in the early first week of March, I believe, but we haven't heard anything about our renewal rate there. And Worcester Regional Retirement Assessment has not yet been received. So I think most people that are online or on the boards at least has seen our appropriation control report in the past. This is the format by which our school committee approves a budget and also approves transfers between categories. You can see the first column is FY24, where we currently are. And we've had preliminary budget number 1, proposed budget number 2, and proposed budget number 3. That is the budget that went to the public hearing back on March 14th. If you don't mind, I'll skip ahead because I have easier screens to read than this one here. But this particular report will show you the difference from the current version we're on, number 3, and number 2, as well as the change from the current proposed budget number 3 to the current year. So right now, our budget appropriation is 4.1% over the current year. We have made significant cuts to positions through the public hearing date of the budget, and I just have a listing here. I've broken them down because you won't see all of the cuts in budget, as there are some positions that are in other sources. There were 2 requested positions in the very first and second rounds of the budget, but you'll see that there was a teacher requested. Nicole, I apologize, but I'm not very good being the host and letting people in. In the first round of budget, we had a teacher requested. We cut that and proposed number 2 and made it an intervention tutor, and then it's been cut fully, so there's a savings there in the budget. We also had a paraprofessional requested, and that was cut in proposal number 3. The next group of positions are actually reductions in force. either by attrition or actual layoffs that will attain. So you'll see that we have 9.3 positions. That will be a reduction in force. And there were 3 positions that were in other sources, not the budget. There are academic coaches. You'll see them listed on here twice because some of our academic coaches and interventionists are in the budget. Some of them are in Title I. A small reduction there, and that is the number of days they work. Some of them worked 7 days over the teacher's schedule. Some of them worked 10. They will all be working only 5 days over the teacher's schedule. And the technology integration specialist, that's one of the programs that was put into place for ESSER 3 when we needed to go all online learning from home as well as in school. And so we've decided that that program will no longer continue. And you'll see that we've cut 13.4 positions or $874,000 as of this date, which may, as I have listed on the top, lead to increased unemployment needs. Just a quick overview of where we were. In January on the 22nd, we had a budget subcommittee meeting. At that point, our budget was $41.5 million, a 7.9% increase. Before we even brought that to the subcommittee, we made some cuts of $666,000 and brought forward a budget of $40.8 million at 6.17% increase over the current year. Then we went back to the budget subcommittee on February 29th, reduced another $796,000 to the 4.1% increase in budget, and that's where we went to public hearing on March 14th. So from the first iteration of the budget, we've cut over $1.4 million.
Cheryl, maybe we should just pause for any questions up until this point.
Charlotte, could you also check the waiting room?
Yeah, I'm trying to keep that going there, Nicole. Nobody's there now. No questions? We'll move on. Just wanted to let everyone know that there are other funds that support the district operations, and this is just some of them. I record the fund, what type of account it is, and the positions that were there, at least in the first round of our budget. I believe all of these that are here remain in the budget, remain outside the budget as of this point. 66.5 FTEs totaling over $6.1 million between revolving accounts and grants. We wanted to provide for everybody in our public hearing the per pupil expenditure versus the state average. Those numbers had just come up from the state. You'll have to know that not all of the district had reported at this point, so the state average is not actual for FY23. But you can see in total, Quabbin is $1,119 below the state average. But you'll notice the note to the right, the Department of Education does not compute a per pupil expenditure for out-of-district expenditures because there's really no consistent formula to use. What I mean by that is, for example, our Director of Student Services is part of district administration, but we do not count his salary based on how many students he sees in the district versus how many times he goes to out-of-district meetings. So the state does not calculate that, so we did not put anything here. But you'll notice there are some places that we are below the state average and other places that we are higher than the state average. But in total, we are less than the state average by over $1,000. Just some notes where we are working off of the revenue sources from the governor's budget. Funds for the 4th year of the Student Opportunity Act was $230 million increase. You'll see that there are, I believe, 10 districts right here that are getting the greatest amount of that new aid. 255 out of 323 non-operating as well as operating districts are now in hold harmless debt. The Quabbin district fell further in hold harmless debt by $13,000 with the declining enrollment of 27 resident students. Quabbin has the 41st largest hold harmless debt at just over $2 million. And again, 66.4% of all operating districts are receiving only the minimum aid of $30 per student. These 10 districts listed to the right are receiving 58% of the new increase in Chapter 70 aid. This is our cherry sheet put into an Excel file so that we can see the differences. Again, only $30 per student, or $57,930 for our district to use. We are actually seeing right at this point a reduction in regional school transportation reimbursement, but I am sure that will be increased as the House and the Senate move through their budget process. As most of you that have been on the Finance Committee or the Select Board in the past know, there are two components to the assessment calculation for regional school districts. One is the required local contribution. This is how required local contributions for our 5 towns changed for FY25. You'll see that 2 towns had about the same increase. Hardwick and New Braintree had a 1.7% increase, and then Barry and Oakham over 3%. But you notice that Hubbardston has a 7.5%, and that's going to be a huge impact on their assessment. The other excuse me.
It was me sneezing. Sorry.
Oh, God bless you. I can't see faces. The other variable in the assessment calculation is resident enrollment. 4 of our 5 towns had a reduction in resident enrollment, and Hubbardston saw an increase of 20 students. So with the required local contribution going up almost twice as much as 2 of our towns for Hubbardston and higher enrollment, they're going to see the largest increase in their assessment. So this is where we stand. You saw the top box before. At this level of the budget, at $40,061,897, the town of Hardwick would be looking at a 6.84% increase. You can see on average it's 8.35, but they range anywhere from 2.5% to nearly 12%. I do provide a history of our budget and assessment increases for the last 10 years. And I do that because there's a lot of misconception out there about how our budget has increased, and that's what's putting pressure on the town assessments. That's not necessarily so. It's more the lack of revenue from the state. As you can see, the largest increase in our budget was actually for the current year at 6%. And to make up for that increase of 6%, the school committee put $750,000 of E&D as revenue source for this year. I have here our revenue projections just to point out a few things in each of the area. At this point, as I said, with the governor's budget, state aid is down. The district revenue from reserves are at level funding. And this is the member town assessment. You'll see the top box is the required local contribution, the amount above the required local contribution, and it adds together, and those are the same percentages that I showed in the earlier screen. Member town assessments are calculated higher than desired, given that we only had a 4.1% increase in our budget. However, it is not unexpected, given the total state aid increase in the governor's budget was almost 0.5% over this current year, and 4.47% increase in required local contribution. Our long-term debt assessment also went up. That is basically for the towns that decided to borrow for the chiller project that was done last year. The long-term debt on the middle high school green repair project will conclude on March 15th, 2027. And Barry, Hardwick, and Hubbardston chose to borrow for the HVAC repair project. That is a 5-year ban, which means it will go out to bid each year on the anniversary date, which is November 27th, and will be paid off on 11/27/2028. That is the end of our presentation for tonight, so we can entertain questions or go back to anything that someone may need.
Before we take any questions, so what I want to tell you is that at this point, being that we cut so many positions out of the budget, at this point we know that additional cuts are going to be very impactful to our students. So we've decided to hold at this point until we get the House and Senate budgets. So when we have those numbers, we know these numbers are probably not looking great to you at this point. know that we will go back, and we've already started kind of working on, depending what we get from the House and Senate, any decreases that we may need to make. But I want to be really honest with you. This is, of course, my first year in this position. This is not the budget I guess I wanted to have, for sure. But I hope you see that we tried to act early so that we could best prepare a budget that is, manageable and reasonable without really, really cutting multiple programs. So that's the place we're at. And if you guys have any questions about anything specific or in general, we're happy to entertain those. I feel like Jeffrey Smith's screensaver probably says it all there, maybe a little bit.
It sure tries.
No, we'll
Go ahead and just say thank you for your presentation.
Well, thank you very much. I guess there aren't any questions yet.
Well, don't hesitate to reach out. We're happy to come back. All of our materials are on our website, and we have a email that you can direct your questions to as well. And I'm sure we'll see you again before town meeting. But thanks for your time tonight. We do really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, it was just us. The other office towns were there. All right. All right.
It'll move. And good luck with
Great
meeting.
Okay, thank you. Okay, the finance committee is leaving, at least the room. And what's up?
Nothing.
Yeah, I'm good so far. I'll call for help though. We have a bid award for Gilbertville sewage treatment facility. I would like to ask for more time, at least for us to have a conversation about this face to face. We have till mid-April before we turn into pumpkins. So, what's your pleasure?
I mean, I've been following this project all along. I go to the Thursday meetings. I call in on the Thursday meetings. I would just assume move forward. Where but, you know, that's just my opinion.
I do have DPC here if there are any questions.
Well, then, I would ask, are any of these alternatives possibly adjustable before or after we sign this contract?
Yeah, so
Go ahead, Justin.
Go ahead,
You got it. No, you
yeah,
got
no. Yeah, I was going to say, so just big picture, we've been managing to the town's appropriation and the USDA financial package, which again was developed back in 2020, early 2020, January 2020. So really our strategy with Nicole and your team has been to manage to that budget. So the thought process on each of these projects was, we may not get everything that was envisioned 4 or 5 years ago, just based on what's happening in the industry. The financials were locked in at that point. And it's always been focused on how to get the town out of the administrative orders with EPA and DEP, get the facilities back into compliance, etc. So when you mentioned base bid and alternates, the base bids of all these projects were structured such that the town would ensure that they're getting, essentially the heart and lungs of the facility, revamped. And in Gilbertville, that's the aeration system. It's some better flow distribution for the secondary clarifiers, etc. Replacement of aging, infrastructure that has very limited life if it's, not already past it. So that's been the strategy all along. The alternates that you speak to and the strategy on these USDA projects is to award what you can on day one, which we feel for Gilbertville would be the base bid and additive alternate number one. That would allow the town to maintain still a healthy 10% contingency on both the Wheelwright and the Gilbertville construction contracts because we're early on. So that totals to about $1.7 million in contingency. That is, I don't want to use the word unaccounted for, but it's contingency. That's what it's there for the unforeseens that come up on construction projects, but also to strategically bring back in some of those additive alternates that we were not able to accept on bid day and the subsequent award. So we've worked with, Scott, we've gotten his input in terms of, what is his take on what might be, the prioritized list of these alternates to get back into the project. And we're pretty confident, with that remaining contingency, we'll be able to strategically get some of these things back in. Now, with that said, to your question about price, so the pricing on bid day, is good on bid day and up to 30 days after that. If we go back to add these alternates in, later on with the contractors, they're usually good about working with us. It's essentially work coming to them as part of the project via change order. But that is to say, to answer your question, it's not guaranteed that their bid day price will remain true, say several months from now when we go back to them, to ask to have something reincorporated into the project. I guess that's just kind of the big picture of it. Just let me know if I didn't answer what you were looking for specifically.
Justin, if I could just add,
Yeah.
The 30-day thing is statutory in Massachusetts. You have 30 days to respond. I'll just say right now, the sooner the town can act on this, the better it is in terms of the contractor being able to lock things in. Some of the vendors are only able to hold prices for 3 days. It's kind of a crazy world relative to equipment right now. So any ability we have to work with them, I think, helps the town on the backside relative to prioritizing remaining contingency, shuffling things around out of priority. Again, we have to order in the order the alternates were listed in the bid, but once awarded, you can really do anything you want relative to the contingency, so long as the project elements were part of the original plan concept. So you do have a little bit of time. Based on what we're seeing elsewhere and our direct experience with this, we recommend that you consider moving on this evening, if at all possible.
Robert, are you there?
I am here. I'd say let's move on it because it's really not going to change anything. The engineers gave us their recommendations. It's what we pay them for. So I think we should move it forward and award the bid.
Okay, well, I'd look for a motion.
I would make a motion to award the project to WM Schultz Construction for the total base bid and additive alternate number one in the amount of $10,202,900 contingent upon USDA and town approvals to award and receipt and review of necessary bonds and insurance certificates from WM Schultz Construction, Inc.
Second that.
Okay, all in favor? Aye.
Kelly, aye.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks for your time.
Thanks.
Thanks, guys.
Okay, the Morse Scholarship. I don't have anything on this. Do you? Do we speak to it? Do we have a letter in our packet?
Yes, Bill is here. He was here for the finance meeting, so he didn't have a chance to go home. So I told him to just sit in my office and he could talk to you here. He does have a letter, but it was, he didn't realize it was going to be Zoom. So I'm just going to let him sit in my chair.
Bill,
Hey,
you're
I'm
on.
Nicole. Pleased to meet you. So it was last year that we looked at the situation with the Elizabeth Morse Scholarship Fund. A handout I have that I'm sure will be forwarded to you will just remind you that at that time I reported that the fund had been started in 2002 with $20,000 and was described as a scholarship fund, and then, quote, the income of which is to be used each year to provide scholarships for college education for male and female high school graduates who reside in Hardwick. That's all it was that broad. Over the years, a few awards of $200, $300, $400 were given out up until 2016, while the principal was held in low-yielding certificates of deposit. Then last year, when we took a look at this, you had voted to move the $20,000 CD from a 1/4% rate to a new CD that we did, and that's earning 4.6%. That's going to mature in September of this year for the $20,000 plus approximately $920 of interest. That is income that is in the category of expendable money for awards. So right now we have money that wasn't invested in the CD that reflects past interest that was earned that was never awarded. That's $1,400. So that amount of money is available and liquid right now, should you choose to consider making an award or two this year for college-bound residents for this fall. And then next year, or at the end of this year, the $920 and any part of this $1,400 that was still available would be available for next year's consideration. And at the current rate of 4 or 5% for short-term CDs, you could expect $800 to $1,000 each year. So there's no there's no process really in place for awarding this. You did it before, I think, by advertising to locals through however you did it, to bring in a few applications and then considered them and made some awards. So I'm just wanting to update the numbers and tell you at this time of year, like I promised you last year, that this is the case. You could begin to make awards again, or you could put it off until next season if you chose to. But that's the situation.
Well, thank you. And it would be a good time. The process will go on and probably end in the summer, and we could make awards when students are starting to go back to school. So that would make sense. Could you explain again what the original charge was?
Right. Betty Morse gave $20,000 to be used as a scholarship fund. And then this is the exact quote. It says, income of which is to be used each year to provide scholarships for college education for male and female high school graduates who reside in Hardwick, period. To me, it sounds like it doesn't have to be a public school student or a Quabbin student. It could be a VOTEC student. It could be a homeschooler or even an adult going back to college. It's the way this is written. So that's all it says.
It didn't say high school, something about a high school graduate?
Yes, male and female high school graduates, right?
Okay. Oh, so
you can't skip high school and apply for the college scholarship, I guess, right? You have to be a high school graduate. But it doesn't say local high school or recent high school or such.
But a town resident.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's all it says. I'm not sure. I can't remember when you have to have made your decision and have your scholarships lined up and make your first payments towards college. But it may be. I think last July actually we were talking about maybe it was a little bit late to be doing the process.
Yeah. So that's what I was thinking, and I think that this could be put towards books though, and then they wouldn't need it until the fall. But I think that if we're gonna set it up, it should probably move along sooner than later, so that the student knew that they were gonna have these funds for the fall. I think
And to vote on how much they want to give to each child.
yeah.
We also, as Nicole suggests, we need to decide how much, maybe $500 for each scholarship, male and female, just a suggestion. Do we want to put some sort of a reason for asking? Put a subject.
Like an essay to why they, maybe provide an essay to why they feel that they should, be deserving of the scholarship.
Yeah.
And nothing, doesn't have to be a 10-page paper or anything, but just
I don't know how you did it last time, but you solicited, or the board at the time solicited some applications, and a couple years one was given out, and maybe at least 1 year two were given out. Whether they were $2 or $3 or $400, the rates were a little lower then. There's a little less money most of the time, but you could do. By the way it says each year, it suggests that it should be something done each year. I'm not sure how to interpret male and female high school students, whether she means one of each or either one is fine, or whether it means just one gift is okay, or there's supposed to be one to each male and female. So two, I don't know. That's how it says.
I like the idea that we could possibly give one to one male, one female student, and I like the $500, Eric. That seems reasonable.
You could do if you meant 500 each, then there'd be 1,000. There'd be about $400 left right now, and then there'd be another 900 earned. You could do the same $1,000 total, 2 500s if you chose to next year.
Next year, right?
Yeah. Beyond that, you'd probably have to revisit it depending on what interest rates had been.
The money, yeah. Do we want to do that and have so many word essay due by a certain date, and then we can take a working meeting to review the essays and then make a decision?
Yeah, sounds good. How do we get the word out?
I mean, I think the website, maybe anything we could.
So I was thinking, if you want, I could reach out to Quabbin and maybe reach out to Pathfinder, because those are our two major schools, and see what the process is that they have, and maybe gauge how big of an essay they require on other scholarships that they have, to give you some ideas and even the amounts, and maybe you could vote at the next meeting, how much and how long the essay should be. I think that's a great idea. If you want to get some more information, or you want to just choose it now.
I don't mind having a little more information.
Yeah.
And do it at the next meeting.
And then really put something together then. That sounds like a good idea.
Gives them time to get the word out before they close up. What, in May or June? I don't know. I can't remember.
Yeah.
End of June.
But I would say, if it's March now, and what our next meeting is April 8th, and if we make a decision, then, I would say, we'd want things back within probably a month's time to make a decision for it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Will do.
Yeah.
Sure. Here, is this one for me? I can scan it in.
That's a good.
All right, thank you. So I think we're all set with that. I'll let this person in and get that information for you guys.
Okay. Do we have something happening?
No, I was letting somebody in.
Okay. We have an appointment for Richard Budney Highway Labor 2 position, an appointment.
Yes, so Marty interviewed the applicants and thought this would be the best fit. And you have, it's a labor 2 position, and the pay rate is $19.40 an hour, and that's for a 40-hour work week starting April 1st. Also with the new assistant superintendent starting April 1st.
Right.
We already did that though, correct?
The assistant superintendent, yes, but I'm just kind of saying that they both be starting the same day if you make this appointment.
I'm fine with this. Do you want a motion, Eric?
Please.
I would make a motion to hire Richard Budney for the labor 2 position based on Marty's recommendation with a rate pay of $19.40 an hour starting April 1st, 2024, pending all pre-employment checks.
Second that.
Okay, thank you. Further discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye. Could we shut the chat off, please? Nicole?
Yeah, I have to remember how to do this.
All right, we have April Gardner as a part-time MART driver, an appointment. I assume this came from Sharon.
Yes, it did, and she is Sharon is a driver right now because they're down a driver. So this person will, help obviously, and it's gone through Zoom. I'm sorry, I'm trying to do this on Zoom and I'm trying to help with the meeting. It's gone through MART already, the approvals, and that's essentially where they get paid from, and sort of report to anyway. So this approval has gone through them and now to you.
I would make a motion to approve the hiring of April Gardner as a part-time MART driver at $15.51 an hour, pending all pre-employment checks. It sounds like that maybe has already been done. So
I'll second it. We all in favor?
Kelly, aye.
Rob, aye.
Eric, aye. Thank you. Do we have sewer abatements here?
No, we do not. That
Okay,
was just a placeholder.
that's what I was thinking. Nicole, could you talk to the complete streets?
Yes, so Marty and I attended a session on complete streets, and this is the next step in getting to tier 2. And this allows us to have access to funding for roads, which is more like road painting. I'm not exactly sure. Marty could talk about it better. What complete streets is exactly, but it's not like the infrastructure or utilities in the road for streets like we do with Chapter 90. This is for extensions of sidewalks and crosswalks and painting. So it's a little more like surface level, but we have to go through these steps to get to that point. So we went to the meeting for a day in West Springfield, a training session, and then we create the complete streets policy. And when this is approved by you and submitted, we can go to the next tier. And CMRPC is assisting us with this too. So this is just a supplement to, our Chapter 90 money and any of the other grants we get or TIP programs from the state or something like that. So the policy is in your packet, and it's been approved by CMRPC as well. It's sort of boilerplate information that towns adopt.
And we need to adopt it.
Yeah.
Do you want a motion, Eric?
Please.
I would make a motion to approve and adopt the complete street policy dated March 25th, 2024.
I'll second it. All in favor?
Kelly, aye.
Eric,
Rob, aye.
Robert, aye. Thank you. Annual dog warrant. I'll sign it tonight. It'll be here. Probably no real urgency, but the town clerk would like that. So if you guys could come in and sign, that would be good.
Do we need to accept it? Do we need to vote to accept it, Nicole?
Sure.
The dog warrant?
Yes.
I would make a motion to accept the annual dog warrant.
Second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 All right, moving right along. Other new business. Meeting minutes approval. I could look for a motion to accept March 11th, 2024.
I would make a motion to approve March 11th, 2024 meeting minutes.
I'll second it. All in favor?
Kelly, aye.
Eric, aye.
Aye.
February 26th, 2024.
I would also make a motion to accept the meeting minutes of February 26th, 2024.
I'll second
Second.
it. Great. All in favor?
Kelly, aye.
Eric, aye. Thank you. Old business. Committee reports. Miscellaneous correspondence. Town administrator report.
It's in your packet if you have any questions. I can just put it up on the website.
Thank you. Signatures and approvals. Select Board Roundtable. Zooming right along. Looking forward to our next meeting, face to face.
For sure. Nicole, does the complete streets have to be signed as well?
It does.
Will you leave those in?
Yep.
Okay, I'll try to stop by tomorrow.
Great.
Well, that's all I have.
I make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Kelly.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.